Hello, everybody. It's Holger Mueller from Constellation Research. Welcome you to episode 76. Welcome, my fabulous co-host, Liz Miller.
76. Do we get to call this the bicentennial episode? Is that what we're doing? Is that what we could do
maybe. But bicentennial is a long time ago. We're getting to the bicentennial and change in 2 years, right? So what is that called? The quarter millennial?
I don't know. I kind of just think I don't want it, though. It's kind of where I'm at. But, I mean, unless I get a day off.
I did the math.
If I get a day off, I'll do it.
Extra day off.
Yeah.
For 250 years, independence of the United States, it's 2 days off. July 4th.
2 days off. It should be 2 days off. If we were anywhere else, if we were in Europe, it'd be like a month-long celebration.
Of course.
We'd get like the whole month off.
I mean, why is this election discussion not talking about who's going to throw the better 250-year U.S. party? I mean, this
right. Who's going to throw the better party? And
everybody gets a month off.
Get rid of. Exactly. And who is finally going to get rid of daylight savings? These are the things that I need to understand. Like, these are the positions that I need to have. But more than that, Holger, we need to talk about the news, because that's what we do here at Constellation TV. Holger, what's going on in your world?
Oh, interesting stuff happening. Last week already heard the executive change at Snowflake, which was an interesting thing to see. I personally, as a former product developer, love a product person in charge. We'll see what the new CEO is going to do coming from the product side. More recently this week, right, major new partnership, right? The new partners extend their success. Oracle and Microsoft, who would have thought about this, going up to 15 data centers with the co-location of the Oracle database inside of Azure. So really double down on something that's working really, really well. And even closer to today, I mean, congratulations to Rob Enslin's team over at UiPath for their first quarter where they were in the black, right? They went a long way and they managed to do this. And it's interesting to say that the silos and the automation of the silos, even the era of AI, is still a big growth engine. I think they grew by over a third in the revenue on the client portal. So good for them. Congratulations.
Oracle also, we have long, it's funny. I think people love to, people love to jab at Oracle. I think it kind of becomes a pastime for many of us in technology. And it, in the past, they've kind of made it easy to do, but they've really turned that around, and you're starting to see some pretty solid financial results, even though there were little bobs and weaves there. What did you think about those earnings?
Well, Oracle is the only old guard company which is still around, right? It's then nobody else, right? So maybe we'll see Cisco's, you're going to talk about the bad news there, right? Anybody who was a big vendor in the 90s is struggling. HPE unfortunately had bad earnings, and so Dell doesn't have great earnings, right? And Oracle transitioned successfully to the cloud, and the whole portfolio is working on the power of the Exadata service, the last transaction database standing. You want to move to the Oracle cloud. Okay, you're using Azure. This is why you want to co-locate. You want your Exa machines in Azure, right? And then Larry, last year in April at the analyst meeting, right, he spent extra time with us, right? Where do you have that the chairman and billionaire says, no, these questions are great. I'm going to spend 1.5 extra hours to the 1 hour allotted, because he was so giddy about the investment to AI, right? And you can see it's petering off. They only spent $5 billion on CapEx. They only spent 1/3 of free cash flow into data centers, right? It used to be half, right? Like drunken sailors, right? Clearly seeing an opportunity, investing into it. They're running NVIDIA workloads, they're running Microsoft workloads, nobody cares, right? So these are the three things which are really propelling Oracle. And then they have pretty good apps too, right? So no question, right? You recently talked about their CX being...
Their CX apps, I mean, they made a really smart decision, right? When you go and look at your legacy apps, and yes, you bought a lot of things that were really good to buy at the time, but when they don't actually work together, and they certainly didn't work together well on your new modern infrastructure, you have a choice. And I think that Larry Ellison and Rob Tarkoff made the right choice. And I think it's really interesting how they made the choice. And it was really about Larry being very, very critical of sales and marketing, as a CEO, saying, what do you mean sales doesn't do this? What do you mean marketing doesn't have access to this type of tool? And so they really took it as almost like an Oracle on Oracle guide on how to take the best pieces of all of the things that they had acquired and reassemble them into these fusion tools. And I really appreciate that that's what they did. I think that move is really underappreciated, however, in the marketplace, because the reality is everyone's done that, right? If you look at SAP's CX portfolio, which again, I look at that Sales Cloud and I look at the Commerce Cloud and I look at the Service Cloud, they're really good tools. They took the best of all the things that they had acquired over the years, and they rebuilt that in a highly composable, completely, they're taking everyone's advice. They're taking the thing that you talk about so much, right? Which is making sure that those data layer and those application layers are separated from one another so that they can work in an accelerated fashion. SAP has done that, right? They're not necessarily getting credit for that either, because I think we think about all of the things that have been acquired over the past, and we really want to hold on to that. Like, well, what did you do with that acquisition? What did you do with this acquisition? But I think they're taking the same path. They're not necessarily taking the same path on the rest of their businesses, and we can certainly talk about that. But I think that I don't think Oracle gets a whole lot of credit for what they've done across that portfolio. But I think those tools, if you're an Oracle customer, if you're not looking at those, I kind of question what you're doing, because you want to move fast.
Right. Since 2017, 2018, right, the outlook as an Oracle customer has gotten better every year over year. Now, compare that to an SAP, a Workday, an Infor, whatever customer. Nobody has this is not by much, maybe by little. There's life, it's improving, it's getting better, there's a future, I'm upgrading, I'm spending more. So that's really the big Oracle turnaround, which kudos to Larry and Safra for doing
that's awesome. Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think then there's the other side of the coin, right? And that's the other thing we're seeing in the news. And I think that people are going to really listen. My advice is brace for the rest of March, and certainly brace for April, because we're going to hear a lot of headlines about layoffs. It's going to be hard to miss news about whether you're seeing it on your LinkedIn feed, which you're certainly going to start to see, or if you see it in headlines. We're already starting to see it in those warn notices, giving that 60-day notice of terminations that might be in the triple digits plus. So we've already seen warn notices dropped by folks like Cisco. We've already seen them dropped across a lot of places across technology. But I think that this is going to feel a little bit different than the big chunks of layoffs that we saw last year. Because last year in 2023, it was arguably a lot of the big bloated kind of SaaS pandemic sales teams, right? When we realized that we needed to go hire more people to sell all those subscriptions when everyone went home, and we needed to get everybody in the cloud, right? We bought these huge sales teams. So 2023 was kind of a retraction of that. And so I think it kind of felt like expected, but it wasn't really shocking. I think this round of layoffs is going to be a little bit different, because we're not getting rid of those sales teams. Now we're starting to see cuts across marketing teams. We're starting to see cuts across product and engineering teams. We're starting to see that really lean business approach moving. Now, will a lot of people kind of take that opportunistic bend and assume that we're getting rid of people because of AI? Guaranteed someone writes that. Absolutely guaranteed someone writes that. Is that going to be true? No, it's not. So don't fall for the headline. But I think we are going to see those layoffs. I think we're going to start to see product teams wanting to run a lot leaner. The question always comes back to something you talk about an awful lot, Holger, which is, are these organizations truly investing in things like R&D? Yeah. Are they investing in the product that comes next? When I start to look at organizations, I was just with the team at 8x8. Right. In the unified communications and of course the contact center communications space. This is an organization that every single year says, oh, they're going to be gone. They're on the precipice of going away. They're never, oh my God. Right. Yet they have annually massive investments into R&D. And I think that has a lot to do with their CEO coming out of finance, right? So you have someone who understands that finance background, had served as the CFO, and is strategically looking forward to say, no, we actually want to be ahead of the innovation cycle. So they're actively investing in R&D.
Yeah, I'd love to CEOs coming from the finance side, making it a showcase at the Investors Day that we're spending more on R&D. But
he also has product, so that's I think you'd actually like it.
See that too much. I would love to see that much more, right? So that argument is usually made by a former product CEO, COO potentially saying, make that investment conversation, which we don't see often enough. But it's very clear, right? I mean, we want to see the most fundamental change in the capabilities that enterprises have to use and that vendors have to offer to them. And on top of that is what I've been talking on since a long time before. We have this business best practice uncertainty, which means enterprises don't know how to run their processes on the infinite computing capabilities which the cloud provided. And that was already a problem for all standard software vendors to say, this is how I want you to close your books, run finance, run HR, run your sales, run your value chain, run your purchasing, run your manufacturing. That wasn't clear, right? And the innovation to get there is what's really, really slow, right? This is why it's so simple to say, like, do you run the public cloud, really in the public cloud, not somewhere in a private data center? Do you have, and that's the number one question, do you have a lakehouse data strategy, big data place where you put all your data? I mean, over 50% of the enterprise I'm talking to don't have a data strategy that is ready for AI. Which is like how much can you sleep at the wheel, right? Thank God AI right now is only doing documents, right? So it's only touching.
Right. They got it to betas,
not doing transactions.
Although I'm going to say, I'm not going to lie. The new AI assistant in Adobe Acrobat and Adobe Reader, it's pretty on point, So now you've got over 1 trillion PDFs that are talking back.
Right. Yeah, but
so,
it's documents, right?
really good use case for productivity. But I totally agree with you. Most organizations are asleep at the wheel on this one. I think the big question always is going to come down to, when it comes back to R&D, especially for our vendor friends, what are we looking at beyond this first pop and the betas and all the examples and all the experiments around whether it's AI, generative AI? What's next? Like, what are we investing in R&D that comes after that? Because that's what all the customers are asking. And I know you and I both speak to a lot of end users, and it's like, okay, yes, that use case on AI and a document is awesome, but I've still got zero connection into my data. I'm still sitting there wondering, I got data in a data warehouse. It's still not connecting to all the things that I want to connect to.
It's ignoring all the data which I make my business decisions on top, right? And because it's only working on the exhaust, because pretty much all documents the company generates, an enterprise generates, are verbalizations of stuff which is in transactional database, being printed out at some point, right? The sales order, the purchase order, the invoice, the employment verification letter, the offer letter, right? Everything which matters in there is already stored in transactional database. Think about if you want to run in documents, or you want to run
for me in the content
data.
space, it's super exciting. Like, I love it. Like, I'm like, yeah, this is great. But, for the rest of our customers, when they're looking at like how do they grow their business, how do they both achieve top line growth and bottom line efficiencies, there are a lot of big questions. But hey, that is the reason why we get to stay on CRTV and bring you weird discussions like this.
But we have to talk about some progress, right? You want to talk about co-pilots for 1 minute, and I want to talk about something else for 1 minute. Go. So the interesting thing for me is, very interesting this week coming out of Google's DeepMind, CIMA, I don't know how to pronounce it yet. If it's Italian, it's CIMA, right? A simulating agent which plays video games, which is a stroke of genius, right? Because in video games, if they're a realistic world, right, not just bubbles hunting or something, you have to make sense of the real world. And the agent which they train in different games by itself can play new games. So very, very interesting from a multimodal perspective, because you can train it verbally, right? So it realizes where it is, it realizes the action, it learns them, and you can talk to it while it does, and it can go to different games, right? So what could go wrong? But the genius of doing this in games is it could work in the real world if the game is real world realistic enough, right? So very interesting breakthrough. Check that out.
And listen, optimizing a predictive model just makes it better. When you apply it into a new space, that predictive model is still going to be the same. So it's gonna work in that same way. That's awesome. Love it. Love it. Well, listen, we're still going to be reporting on things like this for an awful long time, but thanks for joining us here on this episode. We got a couple good things coming up. Stay tuned, but thanks for joining us. Hey everyone, Liz Mueller, Vice President and Principal Analyst at Constellation Research, coming at you with another CX Convo. This time, let's talk about DXPs. Why do I want to talk about a digital experience platform? Really, it's because all of you are talking about DXPs. In fact, they're becoming one of the most hotly discussed and considered topics these days because digital experiences are cropping up everywhere across the organization. We used to be able to centralize them in a single function, right? It might just be the CMO, it might just be the CDO. The reality is today, digital experiences are being crafted and deployed across the entirety of the organization. You might be the CMO, you might be the CDO, you might be the head of service. Everyone is looking for that place, that space, that platform where we can consolidate, optimize, and truly deliver exceptional digital experiences. But don't just take my word for it. I mean, listen, the reason why I want to talk about DXPs is because y'all are, and how do I know? I asked. So when it comes to the DXP, 70% of CXOs are actually looking at DXPs as a significant implementation really in the coming year. About 1 in 4 actually believe that a DXP is going to be the cornerstone of reaching their success milestones for the year. About 59% believe that the DXP is actually going to modernize their operations. So if you're in marketing and you're the CMO, you're really looking at a DXP that's going to bring all of your tools together, centralize all of those operations, but most importantly, modernize in an age where AI, content, data, everything seems to be going everywhere. How do we begin to harness that and pull that into a working optimized space? 54%, though, interestingly, over half are considering the DXP to be something that's going to make a significant impact in their ability to create a growth engine. This isn't just about getting content to move places. This is about having a holistic platform that can be the cornerstone of a growth strategy. Because experienced leaders feel they've got all the pieces now. We've got all of the pieces that we've been waiting for to make sure that we can deliver contextualized, personalized, robust digital experiences that are connected across the entire enterprise to that most important customer of one. DXP really sounds like something that should be able to get us there. Here's the thing. Even though we see it as being critical to success, even though we see it as being this kind of modern marketing, engagement, growth machine, here's why we have to have this chat. There is no single, universally accepted, absolute definition of DXP. And that's what makes this conversation so hard. Listen, my friends at Gartner have a great starting point. And they started with this definition that a DXP is an integrated set of core technologies that support the composition, the management, delivery, and the optimization of contextualized digital experiences. It's a great starting point. And that's a great first step into understanding what that core set of tools is. The reality, though, is not every DXP is the same. You don't get the same laundry list of solutions and tools. You're not going to be able to truly compare side by side, maybe for that top layer of tools. But for the most part, when you say that something is a core group of technologies, the reality is that list gets long, really fast, because a core list of technologies has to actually answer a core business problem. And the reality is today, everyone's core business problem a little bit different. We're looking to solve different things through our digital experiences. It's not a homogeneous task we're looking to complete. That's why this isn't a ready-made basket. You're not going to get the same thing no matter where you order it from. Now, you're going to be looking at maybe the management of experiences. Maybe you're looking at composable content, optimization. But optimization might mean capacity in 1 minute and the capacity to orchestrate, but it may also be the capacity to personalize. The reality is there are so many different things that go into this list. When I sat down and realized that Constellation needed to develop its own shortlist for DXPs and for digital experience, I mean, yeah, it was great that I had a definition to start with, but wow, this list got long, fast. I couldn't even fit all the things on the list in one slide. That tells you how much stuff is in here. So I understand that this is a starting point of what I consider to be the cornerstone of a DXP. Yes, you have to have that CMS. Ideally, it's headless. Ideally, I say, because sometimes organizations really need a hybrid CMS. Sometimes they've still got a whole lot of traditional sites with traditional CMSs that they're dealing with. That's reality, and that's okay. We're really dealing with a broad, expansive group of destinations and delivery presentation layers. It's why it makes this so hard. But the beautiful thing about a DXP is what you should really be able to look at is one that gives you that flexibility, right? It gives you the flexibility to say, okay, you know what? I really need headless. And it gives you that path to easily and quickly move down that path. You might need hybrid, but can you also manage WordPress for enterprise? So there are lots of different solutions out there, but flexibility really is at the core. Not everyone speaks one language. There isn't just one CMS. And that's very true of digital experiences. When you're talking about something being composable, what you're talking about, it's not just being able to move things around, kind of shifting blocks around. It's something that has that decoupled architecture where we're able to keep your content in your presentation layers truly separate so that more presentation layers come on, we got that. So whatever you're dreaming up and whatever you expect your customers to experience, wherever you expect it to appear, you need something that has the flexibility and that has that scalability. It's like that elasticity that brings all of these experiences together. And yes, personalization is key. But to get to personalization, you also need all the journey orchestration and all the analytics, right? All the reporting, you need the governance, you need the security, and you need that data. You need to be able to access data so you can personalize on the fly, contextualize on the fly. You need those AI and ML driven tools because I don't know if you've heard, AI is officially a thing now. And that brings me to the short list, right? Because if we're going to create a list of what things you need, we also had to create a list of a starting point. Some of the solutions that we say, hey, listen, and I struggled to just get to 9, and you should know that. And I can honestly say that these are the 9 vendors that I really do think sit at the top of our consideration list, especially for large enterprises. As you start to look at that question, does your organization really need a DXP? You're probably the ones that are going to start looking at this list and hopefully first. You're going to see a lot of the usual suspects on this list. These are folks who've really been honing this craft and really do offer that expansive, rich, robust laundry list that couldn't fit on a slide list of solutions. But you're probably also going to see something on this short list that maybe you weren't expecting, right? So you're going to see the usual suspects, but maybe, you're going to recognize your Adobe. Yeah, you're going to recognize your Acquia. You got HCL. But then I did something. I did something on this list that kind of caught me a little flack. Lots of questions came my way. Some people wanted me to justify something. And you know what? I'm happy to, because there's a non-traditional name on this list right there, Pantheon. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about it. Okay, so first off, let me be totally transparent about something. It's funny because about a year ago, the team at Pantheon came to me and asked me a really big question. They asked me, are we a DXP? And truth be told, I told them, no, you're not. Not only that, but because I just said to them, don't spend a lot of time trying to compete on being a DXP. You don't have to wage the DXP battle and try to mix it up with a lot of these names that people are going to be really familiar with and, quite frankly, really do tackle those DXP kind of tick marks, tick for tick, because everyone's vying to be a DXP right now. That's right. I literally told them, just stay in your lane, because in web ops and the things that you do, you actually do them really well, right? And when it comes to Pantheon, this is an organization that knows content. They know delivery. They know performance. They know personalization. They know flexibility, and they know scale. And it was funny because when I had to sit down with all the vendors and kind of get the updates on what everyone was doing and just being blown away by what's happening in DXP right now, I hit a really funny realization. Not every solution is right for everyone, and not every DXP is exactly the same. These are the truths. These are the wake-up calls. The wake-up call that I really got was actually from the user's perspective. Because in a tit-for-tat feature set, and the lists are all different, their common ground is actually in the business problems that each of these customers, everyone's looking to address, especially at that intersection point of content storytelling and optimized experience. Right? You got customers and people working in content and in web and in digital. So that's where I came back to Pantheon. Is Pantheon a true traditional DXP? Would I put them in that original lineup? No. But there's something really interesting happening at Pantheon. And I got to learn a lot more about it when I started doing some research and doing a deep dive into them. And I got a chance to talk to their customers. Because, oh boy, the problems that their customers are solving very much fall in line with what customers at other DXPs who are reaching success, who are working with a lot of these traditional DXP vendors. The story sounded awfully similar, right? Pantheon's known as the serverless platform, right? And they are truly leveraging open source in a way that's very unique, right? They are actually encouraging their customers to not be held back by licensing, right? Don't stop delivering experiences because of a license or a language or a CMS. In fact, these customers are swimming in a sea of complexity, right? This is a sea of digital experiences that they really need to bring together. But isn't that what a lot of us are dealing with? A lot of us in digital experience are dealing with the reality that for our enterprises, we don't just have one thing. It doesn't fit into one neat set, even if it is a neat set of core technologies and solutions. We have lots of different experiences that make up our digital reality, and we're looking to not only just orchestrate that, but to evolve it, to optimize it, to keep innovating on it. This day of, hey, we're gonna deploy the site, and that's great. Then we're just gonna keep it in maintenance mode, right? Those days are gone. We're looking for that DXP that also has that web ops that gives us the velocity to push things forward, right? We have a real cloud platform that ensures that we've got uptime, scalability, performance, experiences. Our teams are working tirelessly to create content, assets, campaigns, connected journeys. We have to talk about that last mile of delivery. Do we have that serverless open platform that allows us to work within the reality of our digital ecosystem? And for these customers, that answer was yes. It's because this line between web ops and CMS and DXPs, they're all starting to blur. They're not starting to blur because the vendors are starting to blur the line. The lines are blurring because the reality is if you're a marketer, you don't want to just pick out a tool out of the box, right? It sounds great, but we've all been burned by that before. We've all been burned by this idea of we just pluck it out of the box and it all works. In fact, the idea of magically working out of the box, what you want is actually a tool set that you can conform to your business reality and your digital needs. You want to be able to have that rapid, agile implementation. You want to be able to keep moving forward, especially after launch. You want to launch and you want to keep running. You don't want to do that old school, once I launch it, this is it. I've built my pyramid and now I just have to maintain it. It's not today. You want to pick the right tool. You want to pick the right tool for your customer. But interestingly enough, and listen, I can't impress this on you enough. 81% of CXOs say that the top value of a technology that they're looking for, and remember just how many of them are looking at DXPs right now. 81% of CXOs say the top value is the technology fully integrates with their existing tools. And 72% admit that technology has to earn their CIO's seal of approval. So again, when we start to talk about the complexities of what goes into a DXP, we have to be looking at a multitude of factors. We have to be looking at performance. We have to be looking at optimization, and we have to be looking at all those web apps tools. We've got to look at those web ops as not something that's separate that IT just handles. It has to be the starting point of a conversation. Am I loading fast enough? We live in a world where consumers are abandoning experiences because something took an extra second to load. Seconds can determine whether you're ranked highly or not, whether a customer abandons you or not. And none of us want to miss that opportunity for growth because of a second. We want things to be available. We want them to be personalized. We want them to be contextualized. Hey, and in my opinion, these are the 9 tools, right? These are the 9 tools. Yes, including Pantheon. It will absolutely get you there. These are the 9 tools to start looking at. So if you start to continue, you're going to keep going on this path in your investigation of DXPs, ask the hard questions. Ask the hard questions of all 9 of these vendors. Ask your CIO, what are we looking for when it actually comes to the optimization of our digital experiences, right? What does it come to? When we talk about performance, how many sites are we managing? Does this have to do everything? Is this the silver bullet? Is this the Swiss Army knife? Or are we looking to manage across a multitude of content management systems? Do we really need to pull everything into the one master that rules them all? Now, that might be the reality for some organizations, and they are going to get there with an agile and flexible and headless environment. But for those organizations that don't have that, and that's not their luxury, how ready are we to flex and scale for them and because of them? We have to ask the hard questions, because at the end of the day, digital experience, whether it's creation, whether it's delivery, and for sure optimization, it's not easy, but it's absolutely critical for those of us who are looking for a modern growth engine. They're going to steer us into this next year. Because next, when we're here to talk about DXPs, when I'm so confused and maybe keep having a better idea of the next thing that needs to go in them, the most important thing and the most important conversation that you and I need to have isn't about what goes in that critical tool list. I know that sounds crazy, especially for an analyst to say, and I'm all about critical tool lists. But the really important question here is, we have to have the answer of what do we need to get out of them, right? What we need to get out of them, the business use case, the management, the reality of what we need. That's what's going to get you picking the right DXP for your enterprise. That is what's going to get you to maybe not think I'm crazy the next time I put some non-traditional names on this list. But happy hunting. Keep those business use cases front of mind and keep asking the tough questions. Till next time.
Hello, it's Mueller here from Constellation Research, talking to Rob O'Brien from ITV. I loved ITV because I know going to the UK in the 90s and there were not enough channel. I was lucky enough in Germany to live in one of the cable pilot project areas. We had 20 channels, unbelievable at the time. The third one was always ITV.
Wow, great.
It was good to see.
All the way out there, wow.
Yeah, so we're talking about the changes in TV programming, right? Through the 70s, 80s and 90s, with special dedication to which favorite show?
Yes, some great shows. We had Strike It Rich, Barrymore. We had, we had Bullseye, a great entertainment show of that era. Okay. But I think we're best known, throughout our kind of heritage and our lineage for our soaps. So Coronation Street, the biggest soap in the UK. Emmerdale, a massive brand for us, and ITV also been on for a long, long time. That's in great. The territory.
But, people know ITV from the TV, in front of the scenes, right? Behind the scenes, there's a lot of work and heavy lifting, shifting, and that's what we're going to talk about today, right? We're going to talk about what you guys have been doing with Zoho, specifically, right? Tell me a little bit, when did your relationship with Zoho start?
Well, it started a few years ago. So a while ago within ITV, we needed something to do some analytics. So we used Creator Analytics to create some sort of very bespoke reports. And we're talking 5, 6, 7 years ago. Yeah. Since then, we recognised that we needed a product beyond spreadsheet for kind of managing our development slate. Yeah. So ITV comes up with ideas all the time, generates lots of ideas, pitches those ideas to various commercial broadcasters and broadcasters around the world. Right. We recognised that we needed a system to bring that data together so that we didn't the ideas didn't overlap with each other. So, for example, pitching the same idea to the same broadcaster twice would be a bad thing. We wanted to make sure that didn't happen. Yeah. We also wanted to make sure we had some kind of protection around our ideas. So some claim to those ideas and evidence, if we had evidence that this actually was our idea and this is where it is. So some kind of audit trail in our system. Right. But our most recent and most significant and biggest use is with a system called Spot, named by myself. Oh, great. It stands for Single Point of Truth. We use it as our global risk system, our global risk platform, and we implemented it during COVID. We recognised that we had lots of unstructured data within ITV. We really needed to scrutinise. So we had data kind of in Google Sheets, in spreadsheets. We had it in email, in people's heads. As a global business, that makes anywhere between 400 and 500 productions in any given day, any given day. We recognised that we needed a better place to put all of our data into a single system. So that our leadership could understand where our shows are being made, what the budgets were, how many crew on a show, on a shoot, and where they were around the world. So
how on earth you found Zoho then, right? Because that's the problem which screams of document management system, an office suite which we don't have to mention, whatever. So how come you found Zoho?
Well, we wanted to twin our data structures with our group risk workflow.
Okay.
So we wanted to bring data into our platform, but then add things like risk values, mitigating facts, mark up comments so that people could kind of adjust what they're planning to do in their shoot. So, for example, you would say, this is a high risk production because you're going to use firearms.
Right.
You would say,
what could go wrong, right?
What could go wrong? But you could write, our risk team could write as a mitigating factor, don't use the firearms.
Right.
And then your risk profile goes from high to low. Wanted to surface that all in one system.
Nice.
So kind of your average document management system or your average other system doesn't really work for this kind of use case.
Okay.
We also understood that we could go into the SaaS market and see things that might have that kind of 80-20 rule. So it might work 80% of the time, 20% not.
Right.
But we knew very kind of tightly what our requirements were, kind of what we wanted to do. We had very strong leadership that were very clear on what they wanted to achieve from a system.
That's always super, super valuable when a business agrees on requirements and knows what they are.
And they also
those are kind of like moving, like slow moving, whatever. It's quicksand, which is quick, right? Slow moving, slow sand. And that never helps to select the right software. So that's great news. So
that was it. It was really great to have that kind of that leadership stakeholder buy-in.
That's great too.
They also had very fast development expectations. Given it was COVID and given that we needed to make decisions by the minute, recognised that we needed to have a product up and running very quickly. So that sort of got us into kind of the low-code kind of tool set. We knew that we could do a little bit of development. So we used, we got our head around Delhi very quickly. Had a service partner help us implement our technology. But it also meant because we were using low-code, we were able to build a kind of an MVP product within about 6 or 7 weeks.
That's great.
So we had a product ready to go. I mean, there was a change management project that went afterwards, which took a longer time to actually roll out the technology. I think as any technology requires. But we were able to get to our MVP and our original product very quickly. That's why we went with low code. We knew our requirements. We knew that it wasn't going to be the most complex software in the world that required a large development team, and we knew that we could do it in a kind of a structured way using low code. That's how we came across Zoho.
And then you used a waves approach or MVP. You mentioned that. You used agile capabilities to get there, or?
I think the beauty of kind of low code actually is that you can kind of shift your approach based on the needs of the needs and the abilities of the team that are making the tool. For us, for this technology, we've been using a kind of an agile approach, a little bit of Scrum as well in there with kind of a product manager and a team and stuff around it. But mainly, we've been looking at kind of that agile and Scrum approach to deliver our technology. Just enables that agility that we need.
That's great. Yeah. How hard was it for you to come up to speed with the tool? How long did it take?
Not very long to learn the tool, but ITV is a large multinational business. It operates in 13 countries. It's got 16 different production labels or production businesses. So the change management project was quite vast, and we're going around to every single one. Just logistically, based on time, it took a long time. So the change management project was longer than the actual development cycle.
Oh, interesting.
But just the time to get onto calls with the different countries, different territories, talk about the why. Because the why is probably the most important piece of any change management project. Making sure they accept the why.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Well, exactly. But also understand the why. Understand that there was a mandate from leadership to implement this technology, and then explain how it was going to be used. Now, the system isn't the most complex system in the world, like I've already said. So actually, it is quite intuitive, filling in forms and boxes. But we did have that piece of like learning how to use it. But it was a kind of a very quick. For all of our users, it was a very quick kind of uptake and ability to get on and start using the technology in the way that we needed them to.
So rollout took longer because of the setup, international and so on, than building it. But let's talk a little bit, because the biggest concern selecting a low-code, no-code tool is I have to build something, right? You realize the standard software isn't going to do it. You have to build something. Did you have your own in-house developers for that, or did you learn that, or did you use also consultants? How did you get the automation that ITV needed?
Oh, that's good. That's a great question, Holger. We did use a Zoho reseller to help us provide some tech smarts to help us get up and running. But we also twinned them with our own kind of product teams with it in-house. What I've actually found with the technology is that the actually it sort of lends itself to our kind of more junior development employees, kind of those graduates perhaps who are coming through the system. They can get up and running very quickly with systems and build products, and it kind of excites them. The ability they can see the technology emerging quickly from simpler development really excites them and encourages them to get using. But we see that kind of learning curve with our kind of graduates and junior developers ramp up very quickly in terms of their lead scripts, and then it really is a good sort of stepping stone for them to go from kind of the low-code tools into the more complicated tools. But it means we don't need to bring in large amounts of developers, a big test and release and deployment teams as well. Actually, we've got a very, very small product team. And we get a bit of consultancy from Zoho's partners, but largely we do most of it.
In the implementation, what was like a critical moment? It might have been getting requirements, getting the milestone done, having a feature delivered from Zoho. What would you say were
well, I think we had
dramatic moments. If you would produce this as a soap opera or as a series, right? What would be the cliffhanger that we would do like for the first half?
Well, I think we definitely had the kind of the MVP moment, where the technology emerged and it worked in a way that we wanted it to. So we had that kind of first moment where we were on the tool for the first time, and we were able to see that yes, it can do what we need it to do. And to be honest with you, a sense of relief that it could do what we wanted it to do.
I know that exactly. I have grey hair for that, right? You have no hair for that. But, thank you. It's super interesting always to hear about low-code projects. Cool. Well, thank you for telling the story. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
My pleasure.
Hey, Holger, that was a fun interview that you did. I liked that one. That was a good one.
Well, how interesting can you building custom applications, right? So thanks for watching that. Really impressive things being built with Zoho Creator over at ITV.
Yeah, that was very cool.
Yeah.
That's very, very cool. Well, listen, that does it for us here on another episode of CRTV. Listen, next up, you're going to have the Ds. You're going to have the Doug and the Dion, the serious news people here at CRTV. But listen, they're going to bring another great episode up for you. That's going to drop in about 2 weeks. Other than that, hey, we'll see you next episode. Holger, as always, thanks so much for being here with me.
Thanks for being with me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Be safe out there. Okay, now I have time to do my hair, and it's too low. Now I have to tilt my screen. Yeah, perfect, right? Liz has finally smartened up and comes a little fashionably late, so I've fixed up my camera, fixed up my hair.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Well, I was ironically also fixing my hair. Well, I mean, Diane and Doug probably.
How much time did the double D spend on fixing their hair?
Doug spends more time making his lunch.
Probably. And he's got a giant tankard of water. I've got my. Apparently, everyone tells me this looks like a beer.
I finally found my German Stein Wein liter glass. So, Stein.
Did you just hear what I said? Did you hear how I said it, Holger?
No. Yeah, you said it right.
I said you have a Stein. Right,
and
it's got to start
happening. First level, right? You're mastering pronunciation, and then it starts bugging you that people don't pronounce things right, and then you become a stick-up.
Then I'm going to start correcting people. Oh shit, that's going to happen, isn't it? I'm going to be like, excuse me, it's not a Stein.
Yeah.
It's a Stein. Okay.
For the record, it's not. I love Lego, right? And you already know what the problem is now, right? It's Lego, right? It's not Lego. It's Lego. Okay, Danish. Second last syllable gets stretched. But I love Lego. I have Lego models here. I have the biggest model to build. Anybody wants to volunteer 1 week, we're going to build the Screaming Falcon or whatever. So, yeah.
It's like you and David Beckham. Have you seen the videos of David Beckham building the Lego sets and Victoria Beckham coming down and filming? Because she's like, it's 3:00 in the morning, David. What are you doing? He's like, building my Lego.
Can you come by and then do some Goodwill searching in my place?
Oh, yeah, you want me to call it out? I'm like fucking Marie Kondo with shit. I will hold things up. When we moved, I was like, you haven't worn this in 3 years. You haven't worn this in 4 years. And then Scott would be like, oh, well, that's a collector's. I'm like, then put it in a plastic bin. If it's something that you're going to collect, you have to fold it up nicely and stick it in a plastic bin that has a word on it that has why you're collecting it. But if it's just a shirt, fuck you. It's out the door.
Do you see why I don't schedule this for 30-minute blocks, Holger?
I do.
Yes, but now we have time. If we didn't have time, and Hannah was telling me, can we do this in 20 minutes? Of course we can if we want to.
I would not say
we can. What are we going to talk about, though? Shit. Hannah's officially done because she's removed herself from
Exactly.
She has a she's like, here's my subtle
No.
message to you fuckers. Start.
Yeah.
Other side.
What? This side?
Switch your hand. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
that's
did.
it.
I wasn't. with the right hand.
No. Now we're going in the same direction. We look like we're somehow twinsies.
So, okay,
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah, there you
Oh,
go.
now we're like way in a keynote. Right, good to go?
Lots more co-pilots. Yeah. Co-pilots. Boom. PDFs got chatty. Doing it.